It's happening right now. In your garden, in the park, down the street. Smaller, subtler, but infinitely more twisted. This is the true story of the animal that gave Charles Darwin nightmares, the living body snatcher. Our story begins in a world of green, a universe contained on a single leaf. Here lives our victim, a caterpillar, perhaps a tomato hornworm. Its life is simple. It eats. Every bite fuels the miraculous process of metamorphosis. Every cell in its body, every instinct, is preparing for transformation, finding a safe place, spinning a silk pad, and shedding its skin to become a chrysalis. Inside that shell, it would dissolve into genetic soup. The imaginal discs, clusters of stem cells, would rebuild it into something new. A moth or a butterfly, a creature of air and sunlight. This caterpillar is a promise, a living blueprint for transformation and flight, but it will never see that future because something is hunting it. This hunter isn't after a quick meal. It doesn't want to kill its prey. It wants it alive. It wants to use it as a living womb, a walking nursery, a pantry of flesh. This is our villain, the Parasitoid Wasp. She looks harmless, delicate even. Many species no larger than a grain of rice. You might mistake her for a gnat, but she's a biological nightmare forged by over 100 million years of evolution. She is not just a killer. She is a surgeon, an anesthesiologist, and a master manipulator. She hunts not by sight, but by scent. Her antennae sweep the air, tasting invisible chemical trails. She's searching for a specific smell. Not just the scent of a tomato plant, but the scent of a tomato plant wounded by this exact caterpillar. Plants release unique chemical distress signals when attacked, and the wasp has evolved to interpret those signals as a roadmap to her prey. She has found her host. The wasp lands near the caterpillar. It thrashes, trying to shake her off, but it's futile. She curls her abdomen, revealing her weapon, not a stinger, but an ovipositor, a living hypodermic needle, often longer than her entire body. In a blur of motion, she drives it through the caterpillar's soft skin. This isn't a random jab. The ovipositor feels its way inside, probing like a surgeon's scalpel. Biologists divide parasitoid wasps into two horrifying categories. Idiobionts sting their prey into permanent paralysis, then lay their eggs. The victim stays alive but immobile, a fresh meal that cannot move. But our wasp is worse. She is a koinobiont. She wants her host awake. She wants it to keep crawling, eating, and growing. With terrifying precision, she injects her payload and flies away. The entire encounter lasts seconds. The caterpillar appears unharmed. It pauses, then goes back to eating. But inside, the nightmare has begun. The wasp has delivered dozens, sometimes hundreds, of eggs, along with a chemical cocktail and, most importantly, a virus. This isn't a random infection. It's a weaponized symbiosis, the result of a pact between wasp and virus that began over 100 million years ago. The virus, called a polydnavirus, doesn't replicate inside the adult wasp. It's manufactured in her ovaries and injected with the eggs. Its sole purpose is to destroy the host's immune system. The caterpillar's blood cells, its hemocytes, recognize the invaders and rush to attack, trying to encapsulate the foreign eggs in crystalline tombs. But the virus is faster. It disables those cells, dismantling the host's defenses. The caterpillar is now completely helpless. Its own body has become a safe, living nursery for its enemies. Then, the eggs hatch. Dozens of pale, worm-like larvae begin swimming through the caterpillar's body fluids. They are hungry, but their feeding is precise, almost surgical. They eat the fat reserves first, the energy stores. They consume non-essential muscle. They sip the caterpillar's blood. They are programmed, by instinct, to keep their host alive. They must. If the host dies too soon, so do they. And so the caterpillar continues to eat. but it is no longer acting for itself. The larvae's chemical signals hijack its nervous system, driving it to feed compulsively. It eats and eats, stuffing itself to the brim, not to fuel its own transformation, but to fatten the larvae within. The parasites also secrete hormones that stop the caterpillar from molting or pupating. Its metamorphosis is chemically cancelled. It will never become a butterfly. It is trapped in a permanent childhood, its body frozen as a mobile incubator. The caterpillar stops eating. It freezes, motionless. Then its body begins to writhe, not from its own muscles, but from the movement beneath its skin. The larvae are positioning themselves. They start to chew. Using sharp mandibles and dissolving enzymes, they bite through the skin and burst into the open air. This isn't a birth. It's an evacuation. Dozens of glistening larvae emerge from the caterpillar's body, leaving it a bleeding, perforated husk. In Alien, this is where the story ends. But in reality, the horror continues. The caterpillar is still alive. Barely. Its body wrecked, its mind fading. The larvae crawl away and begin spinning tiny white cocoons. Inside, they will pupate and transform into adult wasps. But for now, they are soft, slow, and defenseless. Perfect prey for ants or other insects. And so they have a guardian, the caterpillar. Its mind hijacked, its body enslaved. It becomes a zombie bodyguard. It no longer eats or flees. It stands sentinel over the cocoons, ready to defend them with its dying strength. How? In some species, the explanation is even more chilling. A few larvae remain inside the caterpillar instead of leaving. They migrate into its primitive brain and take control. The caterpillar becomes a puppet on invisible strings. If a predator approaches, it thrashes violently, rearing and twisting in spasmodic defense. It fights not for itself, but for the offspring of its executioners. It will guard the cocoons for days without food or rest, until it finally collapses and dies. When the adult wasps emerge, they fly off to begin the cycle anew. Only then does the caterpillar's body, at last, fall still. This isn't a rare event or an evolutionary accident. It's one of the most successful survival strategies on Earth. There are hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions, of parasitoid wasp species, each targeting a specific insect. They are essential to the balance of ecosystems, quietly regulating populations. Without them, the world would be overrun by caterpillars, beetles, and crop pests. But for Charles Darwin, this wasn't balance. It was a paradox. The brutal efficiency of the parasitoid wasp seemed incompatible with the idea of a benevolent creator. In a letter, he wrote, "I cannot persuade myself that a beneficent and omnipotent God would have designedly created parasitic wasp with the express intention of their feeding within the living bodies of caterpillars. It was the problem of evil, written in biological code, a system built on suffering, perfected by evolution." It reminds us that nature is not moral. It is not good or evil. It is efficient. It creates monsters not out of malice, but out of necessity. And it proves that in the real world, the most horrifying stories are always the true ones. If you thought this story was chilling, wait until you discover the truth about the ocean's cutest sociopath that hides behind a human-like smile. That's next time. Subscribe to The Dark Biologist. You'll never look at the world the same way again.